The space station Aurelia 7 floated silently above the turquoise planet of Zipheron, its metal hull glinting in the light of a nearby star. Ships of all shapes and sizes crowded the orbital docks, exchanging goods, passengers, and messages across the galaxy. Amid the hum of machinery and chatter of traders, one figure moved with quiet purpose. Joran Kale, an engineer known for his skill but not for his ambition, navigated the narrow corridors of Aurelia 7. He adjusted the strap of his utility pack and glanced at the blinking lights on his wrist console. Today he wasn't here for repairs or upgrades. Today he had a favor to fulfill, a favor that could change more than just his reputation. Joran's footsteps echoed softly in the hall as he approached the central conference room. Inside, a single figure waited, sitting straight and poised. Lyra Venn, the diplomat with a reputation for brilliance and subtle influence, rose as he entered. Her eyes, sharp and thoughtful, gave him the impression that she had already figured out everything he was thinking. "Joran," she said, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable intensity. "I'm glad you came. I have a delicate matter, and I believe you are the only one who can handle it." Joran nodded, his curiosity piqued. "What's the task, Lyra? You don't usually come to me unless it's unusual." Lyra smiled faintly. "Unusual is one way to put it. Dangerous, resource-intensive, and critical. That would be more accurate. I need a rare device from the planet below Zipheron. It's the Loomis core, a compact energy source capable of stabilizing failing planetary reactors. Without it, a city on Zipheron will face a blackout that could last months." Joran felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The Loomis core was legendary, difficult to locate, nearly impossible to transport safely, and heavily guarded. Why me? Surely there are other engineers or traders who could do this. Lyra's gaze held his. "Because you are clever, resourceful, and adaptable. Others may succeed or fail based on tools alone. You succeed because you think. And I know you care about your family, about your daughter. Completing this task will secure their future in ways others cannot." Joran hesitated. His mind raced with possibilities. Lyra's words weren't just flattering, they were strategic. He had always wanted to provide more security for his daughter Mira, who was brilliant for her age and endlessly curious about the stars. If he succeeded, she could have opportunities he could never have imagined. Joran began, but Lyra held up her hand. "Listen," she said softly, "I will not lie to you. This mission is difficult. You will face harsh terrain, unpredictable creatures, and possibly rival factions. But I will guide you as best I can. You will not be alone even when it seems that way." Joran took a deep breath and nodded. "All right, I'll do it. But I need to know everything I'm getting into." Lyra leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled. "Part of the plan requires you to act without knowing everything. Trust me, Joran. The less you see at first, the more effective you will be." He frowned, but didn't argue. He had learned long ago that Lyra's plans, though mysterious, often succeeded. By the next day, Joran was aboard the shuttle Ardent Falcon, descending toward Zipheron's vibrant surface. The planet was a swirl of green forests and blue rivers, with mountains that glinted like crystals under the twin suns. The shuttle's engines hummed steadily as he scanned the landing zone. The mission required stealth, precision, and careful planning. The Loomis core was located in the shimmering caverns, deep beneath the northern mountains. Ancient and mysterious, the caverns were rumored to be protected by energy barriers, traps, and alien wildlife. Joran adjusted his tools and double-checked his maps. As he prepared to leave the shuttle, a voice came through his comlink. "Joran, I'm monitoring your progress. Remember, some paths are obvious traps. Some creatures are harmless if approached correctly. Think, observe, and adapt. That is the key." Lyra's voice, calm and precise, reassured him despite the danger. He knew she was watching over every step, guiding him without direct interference. The terrain was unforgiving. Joran climbed rocky slopes, crossed rivers that sparkled with alien minerals, and navigated forests with towering flora that seemed almost alive. Every step required caution. The creatures of Zipheron were curious but territorial. Joran learned quickly, move slowly, observe their behavior, and use environmental features for cover. After 2 days of travel, he reached the entrance to the shimmering caverns. Light from his helmet reflected off the crystalline walls, casting a rainbow of colors across the stone. The air was cool and thick with mineral scent. Duran's heart raced as he approached the first barrier, a shimmering energy field that pulsed with every step. He examined it carefully, noting the subtle changes in light and vibration. Drawing on his engineering knowledge, he crafted a device from spare parts in his pack, a frequency modulator designed to synchronize with the field's pulse. After careful adjustments, he activated it. Slowly the barrier dimmed and a passage opened. Duran stepped inside, aware that this was only the beginning. The caverns were vast, twisting in ways that challenged his sense of direction. Strange crystals emitted soft hums and the walls seemed to shift slightly as if alive. At one point he narrowly avoided a cave-dwelling creature, a six-legged, translucent being that resembled a mix of insect and reptile. Using his calm observation, he realized it was more curious than aggressive and carefully moved past it. Hours passed as he navigated the labyrinth. Finally, he reached the chamber where the Loomis core rested, suspended in a crystalline pedestal. Its glow was steady, mesmerizing. Duran approached slowly, checking for traps or alarms. As he prepared to retrieve it, his comm link buzzed. "Good," Lyra's voice said. "You're almost there. Remember, the core responds to gentle handling. Use care." Duran nodded, even though she couldn't see him. He carefully disengaged the core from its pedestal, marveling at its compact power. The device hummed softly in his hands, alive with potential energy. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the cavern. A portion of the ceiling shifted, sending a cascade of crystals toward him. Reacting quickly, Duran ducked and used a small force shield from his pack to protect himself. The crystals bounced harmlessly off, scattering across the cavern floor. He exhaled, realizing how close he had come to disaster. With the Loomis core secured, he began his journey back to the shuttle. Every step required vigilance. The cavern seemed to resist his passage, as if testing his resolve. Finally, after hours of careful navigation, he emerged into the sunlight of Zifferon's surface. Back at the shuttle, Duran set the Loomis core carefully in its containment unit. He felt a mixture of relief and pride. Not only had he succeeded in a nearly impossible task, but he had done so using his intelligence, resourcefulness, and patience, the very qualities Lyra had seen in him. As the shuttle lifted off, ascending toward Aurelia 7, Duran allowed himself a small smile. He knew that Lyra's plan was far from complete, and he was likely a piece in a much larger strategy. But for now, he had proven something important. Humans could overcome challenges that seemed impossible through clever thinking and determination. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. Think, observe, adapt. That is the key, and as the stars stretched across the shuttle's viewport, Duran understood that this was only the beginning of an adventure that would test not just his skills, but the ingenuity and courage of all humans. The shuttle Ardent Falcon cruised above Zifferon's emerald landscapes, the Loomis core safely secured in its containment unit. Duran leaned back in his seat, exhausted but alert, his mind still replaying the challenges he had faced in the shimmering caverns. Every step had tested his skills and instincts. Yet, even as he allowed himself a brief moment of relief, he knew Lyra's instructions were far from over. "Duran," her voice came through the comm link, calm and precise. "You did well, but retrieving the core is only half of the mission. The next step is delicate. You will need to deliver the device to a location without alerting anyone else. There are observers who would take it for their own purposes if they detect its presence." Duran frowned. "Observers? Who are they?" "You'll learn in time," Lyra said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Your focus should be on the task. Observe carefully, adapt quickly, and think several steps ahead. You are capable of more than you realize." He gritted his teeth and nodded. Though he did not fully understand the strategy, he trusted her judgment. After all, Lyra had guided him this far. The shuttle touched down on the remote plains of Zifferon's northern expanse, a barren stretch of rocky soil dotted with jagged crystal outcrops. No settlements were visible from orbit, just harsh terrain, winds that sliced like knives, and shadows that shifted unpredictably with the twin suns. Duran exited the shuttle, the Loomis core secured on his back in a reinforced container. He glanced around, scanning for any signs of movement. The air was dry but breathable, and the ground hummed faintly under his boots. As if the planet itself had a heartbeat, Lyra's voice returned, guiding him. "There is a small research station northeast of your location. Head there. Its caretaker will assist you, But be aware, other parties may watch you from a distance. Move carefully and use the environment to your advantage. Duran nodded and began walking. The terrain was treacherous, with sharp crystal formations that threatened to tear his boots and jagged cliffs that dropped into unseen chasms. Every step required caution, but Duran's mind was alert. He studied the shifting shadows and listened for faint signs of movement. Hours into the trek, he noticed faint tracks in the dust, three-legged creatures he had not seen before moving deliberately in his direction. He paused, crouching behind a crystal spire, observing their behavior. They were curious but cautious, testing his movements. Duran realized that the creatures were intelligent in their own way. They were not predators, but sentinels of the land. He adjusted his path, moving slowly and deliberately, using the outcrops and shadows for cover. He whispered to himself, observe, adapt, think ahead. The mantra that Lyra had impressed upon him during the mission resonated with each careful step. By late afternoon, he reached a hidden valley where a small, partially camouflaged station appeared. Its metal walls were worn but sturdy, with solar arrays and wind turbines generating a soft hum of energy. Duran approached cautiously, signaling his presence. A door slid open and a middle-aged human stepped out, eyes narrowing in curiosity. "You're far from the usual trade routes," the man said. "Name's Karen, caretaker of this station. Who are you and what brings you here?" "I'm Duran Kale," he replied, holding up the secured container. "I have a Loomis core. It needs to be delivered safely. I was told you could help me." Karen's eyes widened slightly at the mention of the core. "Ah, I see, you've come a long way. Come inside. We'll ensure it stays safe while you plan the next step." Inside the station, the air was cool and dry, a sharp contrast to the winds outside. Karen examined the core and nodded appreciatively. "This is valuable technology indeed. Others will be searching for it. You must move carefully. I can provide maps, communications, and temporary shelter." Duran set the core down and took a seat. "Lyra mentioned there are observers. Have you noticed anyone unusual nearby?" Karen shook his head. "Not yet, but Zifferon's northern expanse is wide. Many factions use it for testing technology or secret operations. You cannot assume you are alone, especially with something like the Loomis core." Duran took a deep breath. Every step from this point required not only caution but cleverness. He realized that Lyra had not sent him on a simple delivery mission. She had designed a strategy that relied on his intelligence and adaptability. Over the next few days, Duran worked with Karen to plan the safe delivery of the core. They studied maps of hidden valleys, energy readings, and satellite scans. Duran learned to anticipate movement patterns of alien wildlife, detect subtle changes in energy fields, and even decipher signals left by previous travelers. One night, as he adjusted the containment unit stabilization settings, Lyra's voice came through the comm link again. "Good work, Duran, you're thinking ahead. But the most critical step is approaching. You must use misdirection. Lead observers to believe you are moving in one direction while the core moves another. Remember, humans succeed not only by strength but by intelligence." Duran smiled faintly, impressed by her subtlety. She was turning this mission into a test of strategy, patience, and human ingenuity. The next morning, he began the carefully choreographed movement. He left decoy signals, moved along false paths, and used natural formations to shield his passage. Each step was deliberate, calculated to confuse any unseen observers. And indeed, he sensed eyes watching him from afar, but he could not locate the source. The Loomis core remained secure, humming softly, responding to his gentle handling. Duran marveled at the device's brilliance. Its compact energy output was astonishing, a testament to human ingenuity, crafted from the minds of engineers, scientists, and inventors who had never seen Zifferon but had imagined its possibilities. By late afternoon, Duran reached the outer perimeter of the delivery zone, a hidden research facility known only to a few select humans. He could see its domed structure in the distance, glowing faintly under the twin suns. Communication signals indicated the facility's caretaker was ready to receive the core. However, a sudden shimmer of movement caught his eye. Shadows danced along a ridge. He crouched behind a rock formation, scanning. Two figures moved deliberately, cloaked in adaptive camouflage. Observers. Duran took a moment, recalling Lyra's instructions. Observe, adapt, misdirect. He quickly devised a plan. He created a decoy trail using old crates, signaling devices, and reflected light from crystal shards. The observers, fooled by the clever misdirection, followed the false path while Duran slipped unnoticed toward the facility. Every heartbeat was tense, but his careful planning worked. The decoy led the observers far away, and he approached the research facility safely. He signaled the caretaker, who opened the reinforced door and welcomed him inside. "You made it," the caretaker said, eyes wide. "Few ever approach this facility undetected. Your skill is remarkable." Duran smiled, feeling a surge of pride. The Loomis core was delivered safely, and the mission for now was a success. But he knew this was only part of a larger plan. As he rested inside the facility, Lyra's voice came one final time that day. "Excellent work, Duran. You have not only delivered the core but demonstrated the qualities that make humans remarkable. Observation, intelligence, and adaptability. These are your greatest strengths. Others rely on force or luck. You rely on thought and ingenuity. That is why humans endure, thrive, and succeed even in the galaxy's most dangerous situations." Duran felt a sense of satisfaction and understanding. He realized that Lyra's plan had not been to manipulate him in a harmful way, but to test, guide, and highlight the power of human problem-solving. Her strategy ensured that even without full knowledge of the plan, he could act decisively, creatively, and successfully. That night, as Duran looked out through the facility's reinforced windows, the twin suns dipped behind Zifferan's mountains, casting long shadows across the plains. He allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and uncertainty, but humans, through cleverness, courage, and cooperation, had the power to face it head-on. Duran knew the mission was not yet complete. There would be further steps, challenges, and obstacles. But he also knew one thing with certainty. Humans could succeed where others failed because they could think, adapt, and overcome against all odds. With renewed determination, Duran prepared for the next stage, ready to continue the journey, guided by Lyra's brilliance and driven by the ingenuity that made humanity strong in the galaxy. The research facility hummed softly under the fading light of Zifferan's twin suns. Inside, Duran carefully examined the Loomis core, its soft energy pulse steady in the containment unit. For a moment, he allowed himself to relax, but Lyra's earlier words reminded him that the mission was far from complete. "Duran," her voice came through the comlink, smooth and deliberate, "you have succeeded in delivering the core. Now comes the most subtle and crucial stage. Your actions will influence outcomes beyond your immediate knowledge. You will be a key piece in a strategy designed to prevent conflict, not start it. Humans succeed when they act thoughtfully, even without full understanding." Duran frowned, puzzled. "I don't fully understand. What is the strategy, Lyra?" "You will soon," she replied. "Observe, adapt, and continue. Patience is as important as action. Remember, human ingenuity is not measured only by solving problems, but by anticipating consequences and thinking several steps ahead." He exhaled, feeling both frustration and admiration. Lyra's plans were always intricate, layered in ways few could immediately grasp. Yet her faith in his abilities inspired him. The next morning, Duran prepared for the next leg of his mission. Karen, the caretaker, had provided him with updated maps and environmental data. The Loomis core was to be installed in a stabilization chamber on Zifferan's opposite side, deep within a protected canyon. The facility was hidden from orbital scans, and only a few trusted humans knew of its existence. Duran strapped the containment unit to his back and set out, following a narrow canyon path. The terrain was rugged, with high cliffs that seemed to shift shadows as the suns moved across the sky. He carefully traced the path using markers Karen had left, avoiding unstable ledges and dangerous wind currents. Hours into the trek, he noticed faint signs of interference, tracks that didn't belong to any known creatures, and subtle disturbances in the rock formations. Someone had been here recently. Observers? He couldn't be certain, but he remained alert, adjusting his pace and using natural cover. As he rounded a cliff face, he spotted movement on a distant ridge. Two figures were visible, cloaked in adaptive camouflage. Observers. Duran paused, crouching behind a jagged rock. He considered his options carefully. Observe, adapt, misdirect, he reminded himself. Quickly, he devised a plan. Using reflective shards from the canyon walls, he created false signals that suggested movement in a different direction. Then, moving silently, He slipped past the observers, keeping low and using the canyon's shadows. By the time the observers realized the ruse, Joran had vanished from sight. By midday, Joran reached the stabilization chamber. It was an impressive structure, a combination of human engineering and alien design. The core's integration required careful handling, precise alignment, and careful calibration. One small mistake could destabilize the system, rendering it useless or even dangerous. Joran took a deep breath and began the installation. He followed the instructions encoded in the core's manual, cross-referencing readings with the chamber's sensors. Step by step, the core settled into its new home. The soft hum of energy filled the chamber as the system came online. Lights along the walls blinked in confirmation, and the environment stabilized. Lyra's voice came through again, warm and approving. "Excellent, Joran. You've done more than deliver a device. You've ensured stability for a system that could affect millions. Your actions reflect the best of humanity: intelligence, patience, and careful planning." Joran allowed himself a small smile. Yet even as he basked in the satisfaction of success, he sensed that Lyra had more to reveal. Her plans always ran deeper than they appeared. That evening, as he rested within the chamber's observation room, Lyra finally explained the larger picture. "Joran," she said, "the core you delivered was only part of a broader plan. There is a political faction on Zifferon that could have used this device for selfish purposes, potentially sparking conflict. I needed you to act without their knowledge, ensuring that humans maintained control through careful, nonviolent intervention." Joran absorbed her words, his mind racing. "So, I was part of a plan to protect them, without them even knowing?" "Exactly," Lyra replied. "Your actions were necessary. By acting with intelligence and discretion, you prevented harm and demonstrated human problem-solving in action. No one was hurt. No one even realized the full scope of what you accomplished. That is the power of humans in the galaxy, subtle, strategic, and clever." For the first time, Joran felt a full understanding of his role. He had not been manipulated in a harmful way. He had been guided to act in alignment with human values: ingenuity, foresight, and responsibility. Over the next few days, Joran assisted Karen with final calibration and security adjustments. They ran simulations, tested the stabilization field, and ensured that the core could function autonomously if needed. Joran's technical skills proved invaluable, but his observational thinking, anticipating potential issues, was equally important. During a quiet moment, Joran reflected on the journey. From the shimmering caverns to the northern expanse, and now here in the canyon, every step had demanded intelligence, patience, and adaptability. He realized that humans were not only strong in physical ability, but excelled in problem-solving, strategy, and subtle influence, a theme Lyra had demonstrated repeatedly. His thoughts were interrupted by Karen. "You've handled this brilliantly, Joran. Few could manage it with such precision, and few would have navigated the observers as cleverly as you did." Joran shrugged. "I had guidance, and I learned to think several steps ahead." Karen nodded. "That's what makes humans remarkable. Not raw power, but ingenuity. Planning, observing, and adapting. That is how your species thrives in the galaxy." One night, Joran stood outside the facility, gazing at Zifferon's twin moons rising above the mountains. He considered Lyra's plan and the subtle way she had orchestrated events. The realization struck him. Human success often relied on cooperation, intelligence, and trust. Even when actions were hidden from others, the underlying purpose was clear: to protect, to improve, and to ensure survival without unnecessary conflict. Lyra's voice came softly through the comlink, almost like a whisper. "Joran, the final test of this mission is not the core itself, but your understanding of the broader implications. Humans succeed when they think beyond themselves, when they act with intelligence and responsibility, and when they adapt to challenges creatively. You have shown all of these qualities." Joran nodded, even though she could not see him. "I understand now. The mission wasn't just about a device. It was about what humans can do when they act with foresight and cleverness." "Exactly," Lyra replied. "The galaxy may challenge humans in ways that test strength, speed, and endurance. But our greatest asset is the mind. Our ability to observe, analyze, and adapt will carry us through conflicts, unknown worlds, and complex problems." For the first time, Joran felt fully aligned with Lyra's vision. The mission had tested not only his technical skills but his patience, intelligence, and moral judgment. He had become part of something larger, a demonstration of humanity's ingenuity and subtle power in a complex universe. The following morning, Joran and Karen completed the final adjustments. The core was stable, the system functioning flawlessly, and no observers remained in the area. Joran felt a quiet pride in what he had accomplished, not only the technical achievement but the demonstration of human cleverness in action. Before departing, Karen offered a final piece of advice. Remember, Joran, humans succeed in the galaxy not because of strength alone but because of cleverness, foresight, and integrity. You have shown all of these qualities. Joran nodded, securing the Loomis core for transport back to Aurelia 7. The journey had been long, difficult, and demanding, but it had also been a testament to human problem-solving and creativity. He realized that the galaxy's challenges were vast, but humans, through intelligence and strategy, could rise to meet them. As the shuttle lifted off, he gazed at Zifferan's mountains shrinking below. He thought of Lyra's guidance, Karen's wisdom, and his own actions. Humanity had proven once again that it could succeed not just through might, but through ingenuity, subtlety, and foresight. Joran knew the mission was almost complete, but the final stage awaited, returning to the space station and observing the broader impact of the core. Yet, for now he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Humans had acted with intelligence, skill, and moral responsibility, and in doing so, had secured stability for a world without unnecessary conflict. In the galaxy's vast expanse, it was not always the strongest or the fastest who succeeded. It was the clever, the observant, and the thoughtful, the humans. And Joran Kale, guided by Lyra's vision, had just proven it. The shuttle Ardent Falcon sailed smoothly through Zifferan's upper atmosphere, carrying Joran and the stabilized Loomis core back toward Aurelia 7. The mission had been long, challenging, and full of surprises, but Joran felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had succeeded not only in technical skill but in demonstrating human ingenuity and strategic thinking. Lyra's voice came through the comm link, calm and approving. Joran, you have done well. Your work has ensured stability on Zifferan and demonstrated human capability in both thought and action. Now it is time to observe the final impact of your actions. Joran nodded even though she could not see him. I understand. What happens next? There are systems and observers already adjusting, Lyra explained. The core will stabilize key planetary reactors. Local leaders will implement the improvements, unaware of the precise actions you took. This is humanity at its finest, creating solutions without chaos using intelligence and foresight. Joran exhaled deeply, reflecting on the journey. From navigating the shimmering caverns to evading observers and integrating the core, he had been tested in every way. Each challenge had demanded careful thinking, patience, and adaptability, the qualities that Lyra had repeatedly emphasized as humanity's greatest strength. Back on Aurelia 7, the space station's control center monitored Zifferan's progress. Screens displayed planetary data, reactor outputs, energy stability, and environmental conditions. With the core in place, readings normalized, energy fluctuations disappeared, and systems that had been on the verge of collapse stabilized. The station's technicians marveled. The stabilization is incredible, one engineer said. It's almost as if someone anticipated every potential problem before it could occur. Joran allowed himself a small smile. Human ingenuity, he said quietly. Planning, observation, and adaptability. That's how we succeed. Lyra appeared on the monitor, her presence calm but commanding. Exactly. Humanity thrives not because we are the strongest, but because we think, adapt, and anticipate. Every challenge is an opportunity to demonstrate intelligence and resourcefulness. Later, Joran walked through the bustling corridors of Aurelia 7. Traders, engineers, and diplomats moved past, unaware of the delicate work that had taken place on Zifferan. Yet the effects of his mission would ripple through the galaxy. Energy systems stabilized, political tensions eased, and a small but significant victory for human cleverness had been achieved. As he paused near an observation deck, he looked out at the stars stretching across the void. He thought of Lyra, Karen, and the countless humans whose ingenuity and foresight had enabled this success. It was not raw strength or luck that had carried the day, but thoughtful, deliberate action, the hallmark of humanity in the universe. Days passed, and Joran received messages of commendation from Zifferon's planetary leaders. They were unaware of the precise steps he had taken, but they recognized the improvement and praised the human team that had made it possible. Joran realized that the true power of humans lay in such quiet victories, solving problems, creating stability, and improving lives without fanfare. Lyra contacted him one final time. "Joran, the mission is complete. You have demonstrated what humans are capable of when they act with intelligence, observation, and careful planning. Never forget that these qualities, more than anything else, define our success in the galaxy." Joran nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride. "I understand, Lyra. I've learned that success comes from thinking ahead, adapting, and acting responsibly. Strength alone is never enough." That evening, he returned to his quarters. Mira, his daughter, greeted him with curiosity and excitement. "Father, you've been gone a long time. Did you succeed?" Joran smiled, ruffling her hair. "Yes, Mira. The planet is safe, the systems are stable, and everything worked exactly as it should. But the most important lesson I learned is this. Humans succeed not because we are the strongest, but because we think, plan, and adapt to challenges." Mira's eyes widened. "So clever thinking is the real power?" "Exactly," Joran said. "Our minds are our greatest strength. Observation, strategy, and intelligence. These are what make humans remarkable." Over the following weeks, news spread quietly among trusted human networks of Zifferon's stabilized systems. No one suspected the full story, that a single engineer guided by a brilliant strategist had navigated dangers, evaded observers, and delivered a solution without confrontation. It was a triumph of subtlety, intelligence, and morality, everything humans excelled at. Joran reflected on the journey from start to finish. Each stage had demanded his mind more than his body. The shimmering caverns tested observation and adaptability. The northern expanse tested patience and careful planning. The stabilization chamber tested precision and problem-solving. In each challenge, humans had proven that cleverness and thoughtful action could overcome obstacles that brute force or luck could not. Lyra appeared once more on the station's monitor. "Joran, your mission is complete. You've shown the galaxy that humans succeed not through aggression, but through intelligence and ingenuity. This is the true hallmark of our species, the ability to think ahead, solve problems creatively, and act responsibly in ways that improve the lives of others." Joran nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I understand, Lyra. I've seen it for myself. Humans can face any challenge if we observe carefully, plan wisely, and adapt creatively." "You've also seen another truth," Lyra said. "Sometimes the greatest victories are invisible. They do not require recognition or reward. They require careful thought, ethical action, and strategic planning. That is how humans endure and thrive in the galaxy." Joran looked out at the stars again, contemplating the vastness of space. He thought of the creatures of Zifferon, the observers he had misled without conflict, and the countless challenges ahead. Yet he felt confident. Humans had the ability to navigate uncertainty, solve problems, and succeed in ways no other species could. In the quiet of his quarters, Joran placed a small model of Zifferon on his desk, a reminder of the planet he had helped stabilize. Mira looked at it curiously. "Will we go there someday?" she asked. "Perhaps," Joran said, smiling. "But more importantly, we've learned how to succeed anywhere. With observation, intelligence, and cleverness, humans can face challenges on any world. That is the power we carry with us." Mira nodded thoughtfully. "So humans are smart and brave even in space?" "Yes," Joran said softly. "And that is what makes us remarkable." Weeks later, Joran and Lyra reviewed the mission's outcomes. The stabilized reactors were functioning flawlessly, the political situation on Zifferon remained peaceful, and energy production exceeded expectations. Human ingenuity had not only prevented disaster but also secured a long-term advantage for the planet's inhabitants. Lyra smiled. "You've proven something important, Joran. Strength alone does not define success. Intelligence, strategy, and moral action are the true measures of humanity. The galaxy will continue to challenge us, but we will continue to thrive, not because we fight, but because we think, adapt, and act wisely." Joran nodded. He finally understood the full lesson of the mission. Humans were remarkable not only for courage or resourcefulness, but for the ability to approach problems thoughtfully and creatively. Every challenge, no matter how complex, could be overcome with cleverness, patience, and determination. As Aurelia 7 rotated silently in orbit, Duran reflected on the journey, the dangers he had faced, and the subtle victories he had achieved. The galaxy was vast and full of uncertainty, but humanity's greatest asset, the mind, would carry them through every challenge. He thought of Mira, the future, and the countless opportunities awaiting humans across the stars. And for the first time in a long while, Duran felt an unshakable confidence. Humans could succeed. Humans could adapt. Humans could thrive. And in the galaxy's vast expanse, that was the greatest victory of all.